Hello and welcome everybody back to Tony Talks. Um, Today we're going to be talking about yesterday's WWE Monday Night RAW for July 10th, 2023. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone that watched yesterday's video. It was a big spike in views that I haven't seen on my channel as of yet, and some support. So I greatly appreciate everyone that watched and or liked the video and subscribed. All that is much appreciated, so thank you for that. So yeah, let's get into it. Last night, Monday Night Raw, they were in Buffalo, New York. And I apologize if I keep looking to the side. I got a lot of notes here. I was note taking all night. I was trying to watch every little detail, just to see what I could catch to go over. But last night they were in Buffalo, New York. Show opened up with Finn Balor from the Judgment Day. He came out to kind of talk about his beef with Damian Priest from the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and the cash-in attempt from last week on Seth after Seth's match with Dominic. They kind of got into a little bit of an argument, got a little physical there, as they do in professional wrestling. So they did a video package, kind of recapping all that for Finn and Senor Money in the Bank, Damian Priest. So Finn's cutting a promo about how he feels, and he's calling out Priest, and going over how it's not fair and yada yada, and Dom and Rhea come out to tell Finn, chill it. They address the WWE Universe. Ripley goes, hey, kind of an internal problem. It's none of our business what goes on. You two need to go back there and squash it, pretty much. And that kind of sets up the storyline for the Judgment Day through the rest of the night. Now, the crowd was super hot last night, which I love, especially when I'm just flipping through. There's nothing more I personally hate watching wrestling is, watching a Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown and the crowd is just dead. Buffalo, New York was in full attendance last night. They were loud, and I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know if it was edited in or what, but they started booing Dominic Mysterio. It was so loud. I couldn't do nothing but crack up. It was so loud. The fans hate that man so much. It's so funny too, because every week when I'm watching, my wife's always asking me, why are those two always out there in reference to Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley? And they were all over last night's show, as they have been the past few weeks. And I looked at my wife, and I told her, I said, because they get a reaction. People love Rhea Ripley. She's the women's champion. People out there love her. And they sure as hell hate Dominic Mysterio. So, they're cheering for her, and then they're just booing him on the other end. It is phenomenal. I love watching it. People love booing them. I love tuning in to laugh when they boo. So the Judgment Day all around a great stable. So Rhea went out to tell Finn, squash that beef with Priest. We're a unit, and we're going to run the show. So Seth's music hits. He comes out. He's wearing a robe of some sort, his sunglasses. He's eating buffalo wings. And he gets the cheap pop from Buffalo in terms of the buffalo wings. He's selling the buffalo wings. He's like, let's eat, let's fight. You guys suck pretty much. And that was pretty much the segment setting up the events for later tonight. Supposed to be Dom versus Seth, a rematch from last week's main event. So it cuts to a commercial break. That segment's over with. And Drew McIntyre comes back. I believe his first match since returning. I know he returned last week to help out Matt Riddle versus Imperium. So it's slate Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle versus Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci with Gunther from Imperium. So they're making their way down to the ring. In the middle of the entrances, they cut backstage. Rhea Ripley and Dom are talking to Damian Priest. She's telling Damian the same thing. Hey, squash this beef. And, let's get this over with because they want to hold all the gold in WWE. So she already has the championship. He's Senor Money in the Bank. And so they have their eyes set on all the gold. And Damian Priest said something which kind of stuck with me is he's like, I'll talk to him for you, Rhea. So I thought that was a really good line in terms of storytelling. You think Finn Balor or Damian Priest are kind of the leads of this stable. But really it's Rhea Ripley. She's calling the shots. So I thought that was a really good piece of storytelling right there. Just when he goes, I'll talk to him for you, kind of that manipulative nature she has on them and that she kind of forces on the rest of the roster throughout the night. So after that segment, Imperium comes out. And they do a recap from last week of Drew helping Riddle fight off Imperium. So it starts off with Ludwig versus Matt Riddle. They go back and forth some grapples and whatnot. And Drew McIntyre gets tagged in. Kaiser leaves in a hurry and tags in his partner there, Vinci. He powers through him. He's hitting moves. He's doing his thing, just tossing him around like a rag doll. So then he tags in Riddle for a pretty cool, it's like assisted flip thing. Drew had his arms out like that. Riddle kicks off, does a flip, lands on him, hits the move. That was a highlight of the match. And then Kaiser comes back in. Riddle does kind of like a tarantula style armbar on the rope, but it gets broken up by the ref, and I believe Gunther pulls Riddle off the ring at that point. So Riddle has that armbar on the rope locked in on Kaiser. Ref says break it up, break it up. Kaiser's distracting the ref, and Gunther with that power of his throws Riddle on the mat, which was crazy the way he just tossed him off. I wasn't expecting that, but that was pretty crazy. You know what? I'm mistaken. No, I made that up. Gunther didn't do anything. It was an awesome drop kick by Kaiser. I got to learn to read my notes here, but he drop kicks Riddle off the apron as Vinci distracted him, and then they went to a commercial break. The point is, Imperium was distracting the ref, being heels as they are. Imperium took advantage and just got Riddle out the ring for the commercial break. So we come back. Kaiser's working down Riddle. He insecures. Big kick to Drew on his head. It was loud. It looked really good. Drew falls off the side of the ring. Riddle reverses Ludwig, the move he was going to do, and he hot tags in Drew. Drew got right back up on that apron after that kick pretty much. So he hot tags to Drew. Drew comes in. He has a big belly-to-belly suplex against Vinci. And they're going back and forth, and then at some point Imperium goes for the Imperium bomb, and Riddle is able to reverse that for another hot tag. He hits a few neck breakers and belly to belly to Imperium, and then he kind of stares down Gunther on the side of the ring there, kind of setting up. It looks like that's going to be the next program for the Intercontinental title is Drew McIntyre versus Gunther. But he stares him down. He hits a huge power bomb while staring down Gunther on Vinci. It was crazy. He just threw him off that map. And he goes for the Claymore. He goes to 1, 2, 3. And Ludwig jumps on the apron there. And Drew pretty much throws him into the ring. So he stops him from doing the Claymore. He throws him in the ring. Gunther then grabs Drew ringside. And then they're having words. And then Riddle pretty much took a beating this whole match, and I'll get into that in a moment. Riddle comes out from his side of the ring. He jumps off the stairs and hits a big kick on Gunther. So Drew goes in. He hits he runs off the ropes against Vinci. He hits a huge rebound Claymore to the face. And then Ludwig comes in to try and break up that pin, but Riddle snatches him in an ankle lock. And Drew McIntyre gets the pin 1, 2, 3. So, this was a really good tag team match. They did a lot of things here in terms of storytelling, setting up next programs, especially with Gunther versus Drew. I think that'll be really good because Gunther had a really, really good set of matches with Sheamus. I know he's going to have a lot of good ones with Drew. So I think it's going to be an awesome program for the Intercontinental title. My only worry is I don't see them putting the belt on Drew McIntyre. my worry is with how hot Imperium is, especially Gunther, however you want to pronounce it. My worry for him is when he does lose that Intercontinental title. He's on a historic run right now, but when he loses that title, it's got to be to a good opponent that's believable, because he's such a big guy and he's chopping guys every night. He's putting on 5-star matches. But you got to make sure he loses to a good opponent, and then the program he enters after that, I think, has to be a world title picture. So I think this program with Drew, both great performers and workers, if they get some one-on-one matches, they're definitely going to elevate each other. They're going to elevate that title that, they've been on a good streak in the last few months and last year with matches for that belt, with the prestige of it. My only fear is what is next for Gunther once he loses that title. In this match, Drew looked very strong coming back. Riddle took most of the beating, which is good, so they made Drew look really, really good. He hit some really, like I said, really big power moves, bouncing them off the mat like rag dolls, them neck breakers, belly to bellies. That Claymore kick rebound was sick. He hit him right on the button. It was awesome. Matt Riddle's a trooper for going out there selling for Imperium. Those guys looked really good as well. And then after the match, on the way back to the ring, Gunther and Ludwig kind of walk out and leave Vinci. They kind of walk by him. So I wonder if they're going to be breaking up that stable and what's next for them as a group in total. So, that's something to, something to look out for in the coming weeks. I personally would love to see a third person help Drew and Riddle. There's rumors of Randy Orton returning. I think, some 6-man tag team. That way Orton doesn't have to take a whole lot of beating and can be protected. Will be great to elevate this feud, or they could go, singles matches for next week. But we'll move on to the next part. We'll get back to the IC title picture and Drew and Gunther and all that a little bit later, as they touched on that later in the show. So they go to a commercial, they come back, Priest is talking with Finn, pretty much saying, yo, bro, listen, I'm not going to cash in on you, I'll let you get your licks in on Seth. And Finn's like, good, because if we're going to make this work, we need to be in agreement. And I want you to know that I'm coming, I want Seth next, so stay out of it, whatnot, and then you could do whatever you want to do. And they're in agreement. They kind of squash that beef, and Priest, Mr. Senor Money in the Bank, holds his briefcase, and he goes, don't worry, I got an insurance policy, don't you worry, no matter what happens, one of us is champion. And they all walk away, but Finn stays behind. And again, another, what I find great, little subtle hint of storytelling is Finn's all smiling, and then he goes, he realizes what Damian says. It adds that doubt. If I win this title, is Damian Priest going to cash in on me? And I think that's good foreshadowing and or a red herring. You could go either way with that. You could have him think, he's going to cash in on Finn, and he doesn't, or or the other way around, he does, and he causes that ultimate betrayal and kind of breaks up Judgment Day. They already had a few leaders swap in their time as a stable. It started with Edge, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. So then they do another little break, and Sammy and KO appear. And they're interviewing backstage, and they're asking them, who do they want their next challenge to be? And Sammy and KO are pretty much like anyone on the roster, Viking ratings. We just beat Pretty Deadly. I said Viking ratings. Viking Raiders. They just beat Pretty Deadly. So they're open to any tag team on the roster. And then here comes Rhea and Dom again, and KO's reaction is absolutely hilarious. He's like, you got to stop sneaking up on us. What are you always doing here? What do you want? Because he's doing that whole bit where he's trying to hold his temper back. So he's all calm, and then he freaks out. So it was kind of funny. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about my wife. Like, why are they always on TV? Every time you're watching it, they're on. So KO's kind of like alluding to that. Like, why are you always here? And pretty much Rhea is just saying what they said earlier. We want your gold. No matter what iteration of our I keep saying stable, it matches up against you, they're going to beat you, and we're going to hold all the gold. So then Dom and Rhea Ripley walk towards the ring to go out for Dom versus Seth. They did a commercial break, and they did a Sanye and Veer promo with Jinder Mahal. You know, that tag team they got going on, where they kind of been beating ham and eggers the last few weeks, doing their big squashes and screams. If they wrestle next week, I'll touch on them. You know, to me, I find them very bland, just because all they do is scream and run into guys and jump. Now, these guys are super athletic. I will give them that. They're athletes for sure. But, only time will tell. Right now, I don't really see the appeal in them, but hopefully they get another match on next week that I could touch on and go through. Because they are good wrestlers. They're just really, really bland. So after that little promo, Seth comes out. He's doing his entrance. Dom attacks him before the bell. They fight through the crowd a little bit, make their way back to the ring, and then Priest and Balor come out. They're beating on Seth. So it's a 3-on-1. And out of nowhere, KO and Sami Zayn come out to Seth Rollins' aid. Seth rolls out the ring, comes back with a chair. Again, it's subtle. It's subtle things that I find great in any storytelling, pop culture, movies, wrestling. Balor and Priest see Seth come in with the chair. Dom doesn't. So Finn makes a face. He's like, "Oh, got to get out of here." Priest and Balor get out the ring. Dom doesn't see it. He gets a good whack with the chair. They roll out the ring. Judgment Day's walking away, all beaten and bruised from, their sneak attack didn't work. KO and Sami Zayn came out, and that sets up the main event for later in the night, which is Judgment Day versus Sami and Kevin Owens versus Seth. So that cuts short and sets up the main event. And the next portion is Ricochet versus Logan Paul, which I'll get into shortly. I apologize for stopping midway through. Looks like my webcam's not working, but that's okay. Nothing special to look at over here. I'll put some sort of picture or something in the background of my face, so you can put a face with the voice. But so after the segment with the sneak attack on Seth and Judgment Day getting beat out the ring, setting up the main event of Judgment Day versus Seth, KO, and Sami Zayn. The next segment is Ricochet and Logan Paul face off after their controversial spot at Money in the Bank. And I don't mean controversial as in, they did something that upset fans, but pretty much Ricochet went for a Spanish fly off the ropes through two tables. Logan was not set, kind of landed on his head, looked really nasty. Thankfully, both guys were okay. No, major injuries. I'm sure Paul was probably bumped up and bruised from landing on his head, but yeah, Ricochet comes out to call him out because Logan Paul went on a podcast saying Ricochet's acting unprofessional, didn't let me get set, kind of breaking kayfabe a little bit, which, hey, it's 2023. That's what they do. That magic's kind of gone, but Ricochet doesn't like that disrespect of being called unprofessional, so he goes off saying, "Hey, Logan, it's WWE. We don't go on podcasts. We finish this in the ring if you got a problem." So Logan comes out, and, he's acting like a heel. He's a really, really good one, if you ask me. He's just a cocky, arrogant guy. He plays the part really well, and that's kind of his online persona he's been for the last better half a decade now. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. That persona really works for him. Crowd starts chanting, "Logan sucks." And Logan, I don't know, it sounded like this was off the dome. Really good comeback. He goes, "Ricochet, it's funny. It's your segment. It's your promo. But they're cheering my name." So perfect heel move there to really get heat. Crowd's booing him more. And, Ricochet don't like that. So Ricochet does his patented, "I'm a run off the ropes, flip over the ring, stand on you at ringside, that he's been doing for a while since NXT, and Logan completely no sells it. He go, pretty much that's all you're about, Ricochet, is going viral. That's why you want to fight me. You want to get more views. You want to go viral. And I thought that was awesome. Kind of just like, you're not intimidating me, whatever. Go get your TikTok views. I'm not a TikToker. I'm a WWE wrestler. And the crowd, starts booing even more at that comment. So Logan playing the crowd perfectly. Really good. Logan, goes to leave or whatever, saying it's not worth his time. Then he tries to sneak punch Ricochet with that big right hook of his. Ricochet dodges it, hits him with a sliced bread off the ring apron, pops up off there, slams him on the mat, and that's the segment. Overall pretty good segment setting up their feud. Personally, I really like Logan Paul and what he's done in the WWE over the course of the last year and a half now. He's been in WrestleMania, main event in Saudi Arabia versus Roman Reigns. That awesome Royal Rumble moment when him and Ricochet collided mid-air off the ropes. Of course, he was in the Money in the Bank. He's been in a lot of high-profile matches for a quote-unquote celebrity. But he's definitely doing more bumps than Drew Carey did. Than Mr. T did back in the 80s. More than Jon Stewart ever did, screwing over John Cena at SummerSlam. So, he is a WWE wrestler. He keeps getting more practice under his belt between his other business ventures. If he's stuck with this full time, he is a great draw. He's a great performer. He's a great sports entertainer. He knows how to work a crowd. That's what he did before WWE. And I think it was an awesome move of the WWE bringing him in. You get a new, younger audience that may not know about wrestling, that just want to watch Logan Paul. And vice versa. Paul gets, young kids that may not know who he is watching his content. So I think it's a perfect partnership for both companies. I think Paul does his job very, very well as a heel, as a performer. And I'd love to see him flourish in the WWE. It's just awesome to see him work. Him and Ricochet are going to have an awesome match. Paul's going to do some big spots. I do just hope, for Logan Paul's sake, for his safety, because he has taken some nasty hits. And you never wish bad on anybody in the wrestling ring. But I hope sometimes he takes his time. He gets some practice in, takes some bumps, really learns the moves. That way he could get his footing a little faster to avoid landing on his head, So I just hope he practices, and I hope to see him flourish. I really do. So that segment ends, and they go in the Maxine Dupree highlight. She picked up a win last night against the Viking Raiders, pinning Valhalla. So they do a graduation ceremony for her, Gable and Otis. They're all in caps and gowns. They congratulate her and whatnot with that segment. So that's happening a little later in the night. So they're setting up for that. So I'll touch more on that segment a little later. But the next match slated was Becky versus Zoe Stark with Trish Stratus. It was, I gotta say, I really enjoyed this match. Zoe Stark is not someone I am familiar with, but I certainly will be now, because I kind of fell out of watching wrestling for a few months, as I mentioned yesterday, with everything going on. But Zoe Stark, man, she is phenomenal. She is an athlete, I'll tell you. So, they're doing their little wrestling thing, Becky and Zoe in the ring, some lockups, some takedowns. Trish grabs Becky's leg as she's running the ropes at one point. That gives Zoe the upper hand. And then Zoe hits a big springboard drop kick in that sequence, which was pretty good. So they do some more wrestling in the ring. Zoe ends up on the outside of the ring and hits a Phoenix Splash style springboard. I don't know how else to describe it. I didn't hear the commentator say a name for the move, but she hops up on the second rope, she flips her body and executes it perfectly. I was in awe watching that move. Actually paused it and rewound it just so I could be like, what was that? So that was an awesome move. Really had me on the edge of my seat with that. And then Zoe Stark hits a huge roundhouse on Becky there and goes for the pin, but doesn't get her. Becky does reverse a few moves, and then of course Trish gets in the distractor, so Zoe gets the upper hand again. Becky reverses the finisher again, and then drop kicks Stratus through the ropes. So while Becky was dealing with Trish, Zoe gets the roll up for the cheap win, the cheap 1-2-3. Again, it was a really good, fun match. It really showcased Zoe Stark. I think pairing her with Becky, who's also another phenomenal wrestler, was really good for her to showcase her skills, because I know she's newer to the main roster, and especially putting her with Trish Stratus is really good for her. So Zoe looks really strong. Becky loses, to the heel distraction. She's letting her anger with Trish get in front of her, and it's costing her wins. So it'll be interesting to see how that feud goes on. I'm really looking forward to watching some more Zoe Stark matches. So then they cut backstage. Seth is hyping up a plan with KO and Sami Zayn. KO wants to smash head and break noses, and that's their goal for the night pretty much. And then that transitions into the Alpha Academy graduation bit, where they celebrate Maxine Dupree for getting her win against Valhalla, the Viking Raiders. So they do a little speech. She says thank you to Gable and Otis, and they go to give her very own varsity jacket when the Viking Raiders come out. So while the Viking Raiders are walking down to the ring, Valhalla comes from behind and steals the varsity jacket. And the first thing that went to my head was, are we seriously going to do like a 6-man intergender ladder match for a varsity jacket? And that's looking like what it's going to be, some sort of stipulation gimmick match for this varsity jacket, which I think fits Gable, Otis, and Maxine. I don't really see this really helping or elevating the Viking Raiders, who are two guys I've been watching since they were in Ring of Honor as War Machine. Those guys are awesome wrestlers. So that sets up a Viking Rules match for next week. And, like I said, I think it's a really good gimmick for Otis, Gable, and Dupree. I don't think it really helps the Viking Raiders. A little too gimmicky for them. I think they should really be roughing up guys and kind of doing what Jinder and his guys are doing. They should be taking on Ham and Eggers and just destroying guys. But who knows? Maybe it'll probably be a fun match. We'll have to see. So after that, it's Shayna Baszler versus Emma. Emma pretty much goes to Shayna and goes, "Oh, you turned on your best girlfriend Ronda. Remember what I did to her when I came back?" And Shayna goes, "Well, let me show you what I'm going to do, because I want to fight you tonight." Now, I'm not going to lie. Again, I haven't watched in a few months. I had no idea Emma was back in the WWE. I thought she was still in TNA. So I was like, what is going on? So, whatever. I'll go with it. Emma's a very good wrestler, along with Shayna. Match starts with Emma getting some offense in. She hits one or two of her signature moves. That big mid-rope splash on Shayna in the corner. And that's about all the offense she gets in. Shayna gets her in a chokehold, chokes her out. She taps almost immediately. So a bit of a squash match there for Shayna, but they do let Emma get some offense in there, which, really good for her. Ronda then comes down afterwards. They start fighting, trying to put each other in submissions. Ronda goes to the arm bar, but Shayna gets out. It's a good feud. I know a lot of people wanted the two of the four horsewomen of wrestling or MMA duking it out. I really have no interest in Ronda Rousey. That's just my personal opinion. Never liked her. I find her boring. I just don't like Ronda Rousey. And that's just me. Even when she was in MMA and the UFC, never liked her. Not in a negative way, but I just don't see the appeal in her. Shayna, on the other hand, I love her reign as NXT Women's Champion when she went on that tear, choking people out. I thought was awesome. I like Shayna a lot. I know these two, they have good chemistry. They're friends in real life, so it'll be interesting to see where this feud goes. It's going to be a very technical grappling and striker type match, so be interesting to see. So the segment after that is Cody Rhodes comes out. Crowd is hot for Cody as always, especially during his theme song. If you don't sing that, I don't know what to tell you. But he comes out, goes on trash talking Brock Lesnar, going over how Brock's not in town, as opposed to last week. Cody put a beat down on him last week. But he uses Brock Lesnar as an analogy. He's kind of going for that hero figure that could overcome all odds. So he's like, everyone has a Brock Lesnar, he pretty much used him as an analogy for obstacles. No matter what you have to do in life, you're going to have a Brock Lesnar. And he said, unfortunately for me, my Brock Lesnar is the 6'3", 300-pound monster, Brock Lesnar. And then Cody goes, I want Brock at SummerSlam. And then he goes, after I beat Brock at SummerSlam, I'm going to be next in line for that belt, after I beat him. So it looks like at least one match is set for SummerSlam, Brock versus Cody Rhodes in a rubber match. They used that word quite a bit last night, the rubber match. The third and final match in there. So, I'm hoping Cody wins. I think he really needs this win. That will really propel him for a world title program. It's very shocking when they didn't put it on him at WrestleMania, especially after having him win the Rumble after his return. Of course, it wouldn't have mattered. He tore his pec at Hell in the Cell. He was out for a little bit. But yeah, who doesn't love Cody Rhodes? Who doesn't love Brock Lesnar? Let them have their rubber match. Let them finish it out, and then put Cody in that title program, and hopefully he can win a big one. I have a feeling they may let Cody win the big one, and then Senor Mr. Money in the Bank is going to cash in on him. But they alluded to last night on Raw. Damian Priest could go after the NXT champion. He could go after Roman Reigns. So who knows who he'll cash in on. But I have a feeling once Cody wins the big one, they're going to give us a swerve at some point. But I really think he needs a world title to complete his story. And I'll get more on Cody Rhodes maybe a little bit next week about him and his story and his return and what he's done in my own personal experiences meeting him. Because I did have the pleasure of doing that once before. But that's a story for another time. So after that promo, the next match was Miz versus Tommaso Ciampa in a no DQ match. I believe Ciampa got Vince McMahon. They took out the Tommaso. I think he's just Ciampa now. But yeah, no DQ match after the Miz laid him out last week at ringside. Ciampa, roughs up the Miz at ringside, throws him in the ring. The match starts. So the Miz, Ciampa ends up getting a chair from the crowd. Working Miz with the chair. They end up back outside. He throws Miz over the announce table, hits him over the table. He lands in the commentator chair. Ciampa rolls him on the chair and hits a big flying knee on him, which is really, really, really cool. They did set up an announce table spot, but Ciampa ended up throwing Miz rib first into the crowd off the announce table as well. So he was working Miz with that midsection and hitting them flying knees. So at that point, since they set up the table spot but didn't follow through, the crowd's chanting they want tables, 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 tables. Ciampa goes under the ring. He pulls out some weapons, trash can, another chair, and he brings that table out, and he's filling the ring with weapons. So Miz gains control. Ciampa's able to reverse. He has him in the corner. He hits him with some mud stomps down there. Then he picks up the lid to that trash can. He hits about 5 running knees where he put that trash can lid in between his knee and the Miz's face. Really cool sequence there, just beating into Miz's head with that trash can. And while the Miz is down, Ciampa sets up the table, and he gets the Miz up on the top rope and hits him with an air raid siren off the top rope. Now, I'll tell you, he was setting that up, and that's a signature move of Ciampa's. You know, that holding them behind the back, you got their neck tucked, and you just drop them type suplex. You know, it's a very awesome move. He's been using it forever. He was setting that up on the top rope, and I was going, no way he's going to do it. Miz is going to reverse for some stupid move and push him through and get the win. No, he hit the air raid siren off of the top rope, and it was awesome. Ciampa had a lot of awesome moves in that match. He had that big knee to Miz in the chair. He reversed the one Miz's move in the corner with he got some height, kneed him again. That's how he got down. Miz got in the turnbuckle for the mud stomps that led into the trash can sequence. And then this big suplex off the top rope. That was another moment where I got out of my chair and went, you know, oh my God, you know, Joey Styles, oh my God. But that was awesome. So Ciampa goes for the 1, 2, 3. But out comes Bronson Reed. He drags him out, beats him down, hits Ciampa with a splash on the outside, rolls him in, hits him from a big splash from the top rope. Miz gets the win. You know, I was surprised to see Bronson Reed. I forgot WWE had re-signed him. He was awesome on the independent circuit. He's a big guy. He's very mobile, but he's also just a monster. So it looks like the Miz has him in his money pit as a paid bodyguard. So Ciampa looked really strong during the match, even though he picked up a loss. He looked really good in that match, hitting some really big moves. You know, Ciampa's got to be late 30s, early 40s. He's had a lot of injuries. And he just came back from another one, and he's looking great. You know, he's looking in shape. He's hitting awesome moves. He's out there. He's working. He's in a nice program with The Miz. The Miz can put anybody over. He's the modern-day Chris Jericho. I love The Miz. Always been a fan of his as well. So The Miz gains the heat, you know, is that slimy heel. And you got to wonder, who's Ciampa going to call to be his next, you know, his tag team partner, because you can't go 2-on-1 versus Miz and Bronson Reed. So is he going to team back up with former DIY partner Gargano? Or is he going to find someone else? You know, that could be another potential. You could have Randy Orton fill in that spot if he is indeed ready to return. You protect Randy with some tag team matches. You go with Johnny and Candice. You have some options there. And I think it'll be really good if they keep doing Extreme Rule matches like this, because that's where Ciampa thrives. He loves hurting guys. So that segment ended, and we cut backstage to the women tag team champions, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They were talking about whatever. Then Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green come out going, we won last week, we're coming for your belts. And lo and behold, our two favorite people come back out. That's right, Rhea Ripley and Dom Mysterio come right back out again for about the 5th time tonight. And Rhea is playing that manipulation card again. She goes, you know, she tells Liv and Rachel, stay out of my business and I won't hurt you. And Liv Morgan and Rachel, or I'm sorry, not Rachel, Raquel, I'm sorry. Keep calling her Rachel. Raquel Rodriguez tell her, we're not scared of you, and I think they should be, because Judgment Day they're beating up everybody. They hold Money in the Bank. They hold the Women's Championship. They're eyeing up those tag team belts. So kind of setting up a feud there. You know, if they ever wanted to bring in another woman to the stable, they could possibly go for those women tag team belts. I don't know who they could bring up. You know, there's maybe some women down in NXT that would fit Judgment Day. First one that comes to mind is Gigi, if she's not in the program right now. She's really good at playing that dark, sadistic, manipulative type character. So, you know, there's room to have more members of Judgment Day if this tension ever breaks and they stay together. So the next match is Sonya Deville versus Chelsea Green versus Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. This match just didn't do it for me. It was very boring, very sloppy. Chelsea Green goes for a sunset flip over the ropes on Kaden Carter, and it kind of looked botched a little bit. Looks like Carter kind of threw her body and landed awkwardly on Chelsea's arm which I know either she broke her leg or broke her arm or wrist not too long ago. So I thought she was going to be hurt, but she got up just fine. They do take the match to the Carter and Chance corner. And Sonya Deville kind of hits Chance on the apron, and she kind of just looks at it, and then looks like she remembered she had a spot to do, and just kind of jumps on her, and they just kind of plop over. It looked weak, looked awful. But after a few exchanges, Chelsea Green wins with a crucifix pin with the assist from Deville holding her legs on the rope. Ref never saw it. So, that match didn't do nothing for me. It just seemed it was not fluid, seemed very weird. But I know Deville and Green are some really good performers and wrestlers. I know Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are as well, so hopefully they could have a better match next week for them belts. Then they do a segment with Drew and Riddle. Riddle says he has a one-on-one match with Gunther next week, where Imperium is banned from ringside. So that'll be going on next week. I don't see Riddle winning. And even though he talked to Adam Pearce about getting them banned from ringside, I do indeed see them interfering and Drew coming out. So, but we'll have to see. But I do not see Riddle winning next week. But after that, we set up the main event here. Sami Zayn and KO, Seth Rollins versus Judgment Day. KO, Sami Zayn, and Seth come out first. Judgment Day come out second. Seth and Dom start off the match. Balor tags in, gets some offense in on Seth, and tags in Priest for an assisted elbow. So, some damage. They're really using all three members to work down Seth there. You got to be thinking back in the mind, can we wear him down and cash in tonight? That's what was going on with me. Are they going to beat him up and cash in after this match? Who knows? So Sammy and KO come in. They work Priest and Balor. Some moves on the apron. The corner's clear. Everyone's fighting outside the ring at this point. Right before they cut the commercial, KO hits a big senton on the Judgment Day on the outside. Very, very cool, awesome. Knocks all of them out. He gets up and screams, taking out all three of them. They went through a commercial. When we come back, Balor is the man in for Judgment Day. He hot tags in Dom. KO gets Seth. Seth gets the offensive on Dom and throws Priest out the ring when he came in to try and interfere. Dom tries to get a cheap roll-up on Seth, but he kicks out at 2. Priest is immediately back in his corner. Dom gets the tag. And Priest hits a huge forearm on Seth. They replayed it a few times, just, right on the chin. Big forearm to the head. He goes for the pin, but Seth kicks out at 2. Priest, they're running the ropes. Seth dodges. Priest almost hits Balor, but stops and kind of looks. Balor never saw it coming. So when Priest is done, reflected on how he almost beat up Finn by accident again, Seth hits a huge super kick and a pedigree, but it looks like Priest kicked out at 2. It looks like Dom was coming to break it up, but it looks like Priest kicked out because it didn't look like Dom was going to make it in time, but who knows? Maybe just kicked out and Dom was doing his thing, but to me it was weird having Dom break it up and Priest kick out. Normally it's one or the other. But he kicks out at 2, tags Balor in. He beats up Seth. He tags Dom and he hits a big frog splash, but Seth kicks out. Balor then hits a sling blade on Rollins. Rollins answers back with a super kick, tags in Sami Zayn. Balor hits a drop kick and misses the coup de grace on Zayn. Sami then picks up Finn and goes for a blue thunder bomb and kind of drops him on his back, and they just kind of stare at each other, so it looks like he botched it. He just kind of drops him. And I'll touch on that in a moment. But Dom breaks up what's going on. KO comes in, hits Dom with a stunner. Zayn then hits an exploder on Balor. Rhea holds Zayn from hitting the haluva kick. In between all this, Sammy did hit a blue thunder bomb, his actual one. Then he went for the exploder, and as he was going for the haluva kick, Rhea is holding his leg in the corner, but the ref is distracted. So while the ref's distracted with Rhea Ripley now, Priest hits a big choke slam on Zayn. Here comes a coup de grace from Balor for the win, 1, 2, 3. And that's the show. Yeah, so it was a really fun match, some really big spots. It was awesome seeing Judgment Day win. I think that's good for them. They need that momentum going. Who knows if this tension of that subtle storytelling is a work or not. But, I would love to see this group stay together and maybe capture majority of the gold. Maybe Dom and Balor with the tag team championships. And then, Senor Mr. Money in the Bank with the big gold one. So we'll see. I was doing some reading today on the dirt sheets. They did say there was some tensions after the match about some spots going awry, which I touched on. Some things looked botched and not right. And they said it was due to time constraints and whatnot. Now, I never really believe much what the dirt sheets say 100%. I always take it with a grain of salt because, we're not actually there. Who knows what's going on? But it's a very good match, very good show. I'm excited for next week with that Riddle-Gunther match. See what Seth, KO, and Sammy have in store with the Judgment Day. And, of course, that Viking Rules match. So, that's the recap for Monday Night Raw. We'll pick up the conversation next week. So I appreciate everyone tuning in and listening, especially support on that last video. If there's any topics of discussion you'd like to see me touch on, please leave a comment, send me a message. I'd love to start other projects here. Doesn't have to be WWE related. It could be video games, pop culture. But yeah, that was Monday Night Raw in Buffalo, New York from 7/10. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.